Okay, let's talk about the greatest thing that's happening in manga right now.
So we just had maybe the most insane One Piece chapter of all time. At the very least, this is by far...
Get this bum out of here, will you? Just get this bum out of here already, huh?
The Akane Banashi time skip. But before we talk about that, we have to discuss the groundbreaking plot twist that triggered this event. So Akane's master brings her to his event, basically to show off. To illustrate how he built his Rakugo event from the ground up through a lifetime of engagement in the community. He puts on a master class. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, the aura. Akane's like, master, your aura.
Later.
They're at a restaurant reflecting on Akane's character development, but she quickly realizes she has much more to learn, reminding Arakawa that he would teach Akane a Ninja Banashi story. He's like, cool, which one is it? Akane voices Shiba Hama, wanting Ishao to acknowledge her dad's story, and as Shiguma was the one that taught him, Akane asks him to do the same. He's like, that's your plan? What if he was expelled because he chose Shiba Hama, or because it was the previous Shiguma Shiba Hama? We learn when Shiguma confronted Ishao on Shinta's expulsion. After Ishao said, sounds like I did you a favor then, continued saying, this was not Shiba Hama.
What do you mean by that?
At his funeral, we see Ishao and Shiguma swore they would protect their master's art after he passed. However, so did Akane's dad. He's like, if you're gonna fulfill your goal, you must deal with the history of the Arakawa school. And fast forward a filler chapter where Akane's with the boys eating somen. Of course, she's like,
Tell me the story. Later.
Arakawa shows her Shiguma's art and Akane's like, is that even Rakugo? He's like, to be honest, that's what I thought at first too. That's why it's unfinished. How you choose to fill it in will depend on the path you travel as a Futatsume. Akane questions, then how did you perform the story? He answered that he heard the previous Shiguma's art be performed by the person himself. Arakawa didn't feel worthy to challenge it and eventually lost the right to perform it, while Ishao was never allowed to learn it. This is the reason he chases and pines for it. It's the means by which you gain his acceptance. Akane accepts the challenge. Suddenly, the doorbell rings and Arakawa discerns it's a delivery and goes to get it. However, when Akane hears the doorbell again, she goes to look and Arakawa is collapsed. Okay, my boy's alive, but he has throat cancer and he might lose his voice because of it. But wait, it gets worse. Ishao arrives informing Akane he's already spoken with the other principal figures and has decided to dismantle the Shiguma school, sending his 4 apprentices to different masters. But wait, it gets even worse. Akane's new master is Ishao.
Later.
Akane is obviously enraged that Ishao is her new master. Urara stops her, expressing Ishao should be feeling unsettled as well. As Urara is leaving, Akane's like, tell me the Shiguma backstory.
Flashback.
1964. Urara is turning down the Yakuza, but he's not taking no for an answer. Suddenly, Ishao and Arakawa show up and they beat up him and his gang. Arakawa and Ishao both work at a soba place. Shiguma was raised in the back streets of Tokyo and didn't go to school. Ishao was passed out on the side of the street. Also, he was disowned by his rich family for wanting to make his own path. Still, the owner leaves him with the advice that when you meet something that you can truly dedicate your life to, it changes the look in your eyes. And whatever it is for you, it's not soba. Remember the predator Shiguma and Ishao beat up? Buro brought his father and he beats the snot out of them. Even so, a seemingly poor man stops the fight while finishing his soba. When the son isn't happy, his father hits him, asserting this is the one man your dad cannot disrespect, even putting his meal on his tab. After everything settles, Kuroku Kashiwaya invites Ishao and Shiguma to a Rakugo show. Ishao immediately questions Kashiwaya's motives, but after witnessing him live, almost like a religious disciple, he's drawn to follow him. Both Shiguma and Ishao ask to become his apprentices after the performance, but he's like,
Fly home, buddy. I work alone.
They start begging, and Kuroku's like, well, I did start all of this. Think about the life you want to lead. Shiguma and Ishao, taking in what he said, happen to run into the Yakuza that beat them up. They ask him why he called Kuroku Captain Rakugo. He narrates how when he was in the war and death was all around, he didn't want to see or hear anything around him. But in the midst of that pure hell, Kuroku was telling Rakugo stories. Resolute, they head back to the soba place and apologize to the owner for the roughhousing. Kuroku is there as well, and he takes Ishao and Shiguma in as his live-in apprentices. Yet, Kuroku's master, the fourth Moroku Kashiwaya, and the inheritor of the Moroku, was someone that elevated tradition and formality above everything else. So basically, he was a stuffy old man who didn't like Ishao or Shiguma because of their background. As a result, he didn't let them perform the opening act for 2 years. Araura goes on to describe how Kuroku was a pioneer of Rakugo because his work had the refined skills of the classic tradition, but he also wove a tapestry of his own stories. And in an era where tradition ruled all, adding anything was considered heresy, which made Master Kuroku's performances so thrilling. Kashiwaya N is holding a special event that happens only once every 5 years, featuring Kashiwaya's most talented performance next month. Because Kuroku is in charge, he's putting them on the bill himself. At their meeting, N offers Kuroku the name of Moroku Kashiwaya.
Yes, 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 yes.
But in exchange, he asks Kuroku to expel Ishao and Shiguma. Long story short, my boy's like, nah. When his student is pleading with him to do so, citing how he might be expelled if he refuses, even when Shiguma overhears the situation and says, you've done enough, he turns them down, stating, your art is your humanity. If I betray myself, then my art is dead, and everything with it. It's the one thing I can't go back on. Everyone watches Ishao's first performance. He crushes it, but backstage, he sees the Moroku scolding Kuroku shortly after. And spoiler alert, they're all expelled. Ishao's pissed. He's like, what were you thinking? You're not supposed to get sidetracked here. Kuroku responds, and yet you want me to cut my own apprentices loose so I can bask in the greater fame for myself? I'd never get a good night's sleep. Shiguma's like, so what now? Kuroku remarks they're back to nothing again, not even a name this time. But even if it's gone, we can give ourselves a new one. After their expulsion, Kuroku takes Ishao and Shiguma to the Rakugo graveyard. During the war, many arts were purged for being inappropriate or decadent. Rakugo was one of them, and a total of 53 stories were purged. Their scripts were held and mounted here. Kuroku dubs this as the perfect place to raise the flag of a new school. First, due to his expulsion, he sets aside the name Kuroku Kashiwaya, leaving the Kuroku name with Ishao and Shiguma. A young Shiguma promises to turn this moment into a funny story, while a young Ishao claims he needs to atone for his entire life.
What do you mean by that?
Lastly, for his new name, their master chooses a name that died out because no one inherited it. The last owner was a popular but unconventional man who got the crowds going with weird gags and dances. The fifth Shiguma Arakawa. They even have a Naruto picture. That's where the backstory ends for now. Akane pays respects to Shiguma Arakawa's grave and thanks Arura for sharing this information with her. He's like, you should be. I came early to the solo event because of you. By the way, I'm done babysitting you. You're on your own. Akane thanks her again. Arura leaves, expressing, since I've done so much for you, might as well make something of it.
Later.
Akane heads to the Shiguma school while she still digests the flashback. She mainly inquires if the previous Shiguma entrusted the Kuroku name to them both. Why did he pass over his first apprentice to give the Shiguma name to the second? The answer to that probably lies within Shiguma's art. The old Shiguma is the key to the history of the school, and the only clue that will lead me to that answer is... Garuko debates how Akane is still holding up, especially since she has to go to Master Ishao's of all places. Makaru insists he's not worried because our little sister apprentice is a tough cookie. Everyone arrives, Makaru leads the discussion, contending he protested the decision of the dissolution of the school, wearing his shame as a senior apprentice. But he vows he's going to become an Ukonban and amass enough strength to bring the school back together. The gang interrupts, mentioning if that's the case, while you do that, we'll each become Shunichis. Aguma, Kyoji, Garuko, and Akane will each be placed under a new master. They announce they'll build up their strength, then meet up back here, the 5 of us, and rebuild the Shiguma school. Shiguma sends his apprentices a group message voicing, I will return. Just wait and tighten the loincloths on your heart. Koichi brings Akane to the school. Kaisai leads her to the Master Ishao. Akane apologizes for raising her voice at the hospital. He's like, cuts to the chase. You want to ask me about Shiguma's art, right? Akane's like, pretty much. Ishao's like, I see. Then you must forget. I forbid you from learning anything about Shiguma's art. Akane is speechless. Then he asks, can you do it if I tell you everything I know? Can you master the does things that even the wreck of an old man cannot. I didn't realize you thought so highly of yourself. He declares, when you're in the care of my school, you will follow my instructions. Akane counters, vowing, once I have the skills I need, give me the answers about you and Master, about you and the previous Shiguma. Akane's like, I can't back down either, old man. I have to live up to the expectations placed on me. I have to learn how to master this Shiguma's art.
It's time for a death battle!
Several months later.
Kashio, the journalist that's followed Akane's career, is in France to research for his next article issue. When it was announced Shiguma Arakawa would cease Rakugo activities, many were concerned about the collapse of interest in Rakugo. But since then, Ukonban have been as popular as ever. New Shunichi have emerged as new potential rivals to those Ukonban. There are bright spots among the Futatsume as well. Karashi and Hukaru were promoted last fall, but he wonders where Akane Arakawa has been. As Kashio explores Paris with his vice editor, his eyes become glued to a neon display with Akane's name on it. He buys a ticket to affirm his doubts, but quickly is proven wrong when it's really her. Akane performs Manju for a cheering crowd. Kashio notices how she surpasses national and cultural boundaries to make any audience understand her highly refined sense of expression. Still, he observes she's only using a bare minimum of words and gestures, yet it's so engrossing. Just like Shiguma. As she finishes, Kashio, satisfied, realizes not only is Akane still doing Rakugo, but she's evolving. After the performance, Akane sees Kashio. She's shocked Rakugo has taken him all the way to Paris, but describes how she's not doing interviews right now. Akane begins to leave. Kashio stops her, asking when she's coming back to Japan, stating you can't stay in France forever because if you do, it would be such a waste of talent to go unrecognized. Not talking as a journalist, but as a fan. Akane interrupts, countering she's already answered those questions. I said I'll see you soon.
That aura.
Finally, as Akane is heading back to Tokyo, she starts reflecting on her 3-year arc. It was a shell that told Akane to go to Europe to hone her skills and don't come back unless you have something to show for it. With the help of Master Iken, Akane gets a visa. Her translator is Gakuman Sensei's granddaughter. Akane has trouble getting used to her new surroundings, but when she looks at a picture of her friend, she remembers their promise and impulsively spouts Jigumo. A kid spots her routine and is like, what are you doing? Akane explains how it's Japanese comedy, demonstrating by performing an excerpt of Jigemu. He laughs, and when he begins to leave, he gives Akane a thumbs up and a gift. Akane registers how she felt lonely because she didn't have anything to lean on, but now it's alright, I have Rakugo. Akane lands motion sickness and all. She will soon take the stage, and with the kid's gift in hand, my goat declares, heads up Tokyo, I'm back. Like and subscribe. Bye.